There is one planet in our solar system so strange and so beautiful that scientists still cannot fully explain what they are seeing. Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun, and it may be the most visually spectacular world in our entire solar system. But Saturn is not just beautiful to look at, it is one of the most scientifically bizarre objects humanity has ever studied. Saturn is roughly 9 times wider than Earth, making it the second largest planet in our solar system, a world of almost unimaginable scale. Here is a fact so strange it sounds impossible. Saturn is so low in density that if you placed it in a giant ocean, it would actually float. Saturn is made up of 96% hydrogen, the lightest element in the universe, which is exactly why its overall density sits below that of water. If that floating planet fact just blew your mind, subscribe to Noxar Flux right now. We uncover science like this every single week.
Beneath that pale outer atmosphere, Saturn transitions from gas to liquid hydrogen and then possibly into a metallic hydrogen layer unlike anything on Earth.
At its very core, Saturn reaches temperatures of around 11,700 degrees Celsius, which is twice as hot as the surface of our Sun. When viewed through an infrared camera, Saturn glows with its own internal heat, radiating 2.5 times more energy than it receives from the Sun.
Look closely at Saturn and you will notice it shares something with Jupiter, a banded atmosphere of clouds stretching in wide belts across the entire planet.
But wait until you see what is sitting at Saturn's North Pole, because what scientists found there defied every law of planetary science we thought we understood. Saturn gets its distinctive pale yellow color from ammonia crystals that form high in its upper atmosphere, turning what would be colorless gas into that beautiful golden hue. Despite its calm appearance from a distance, Saturn is one of the most violent weather systems in the solar system, with wind speeds reaching 800 kilometers per hour. Every 30 Earth years, Saturn produces a phenomenon called the Great White Spot, a massive storm that erupts from deep within the atmosphere and spreads across the planet. These great white spot events are so enormous they can be seen from Earth with a telescope, and they release energy equivalent to millions of lightning strikes per second. At the south pole of Saturn, scientists discovered something that had never been seen on any planet except Earth: a full hurricane with a clearly defined eyewall. Unlike hurricanes on Earth that drift and weaken, Saturn's south polar storm is permanently locked to the pole and has been raging there for as long as we have observed it. But the South Pole is not even the strangest thing about Saturn's poles, because at the North Pole sits one of the most bizarre structures ever discovered in the solar system. Saturn's North Pole is dominated by a perfect hexagonal storm, 6 straight sides each longer than the entire diameter of the Earth, rotating with the planet itself. Scientists have recreated this hexagonal effect in laboratory tanks by spinning liquid at different speeds, suggesting the shape forms naturally from competing atmospheric rotation zones. Saturn also produces lightning, but not like anything we experience on Earth. Saturn's lightning is roughly 1,000 times more powerful than the strongest bolt on our planet. And we have not even talked about the rings yet, because what Saturn's ring system actually contains will completely change the way you think about this planet.
Saturn has a powerful magnetosphere, an invisible magnetic shield that extends far beyond the planet and deflects the constant stream of charged particles from our Sun.
Just like Earth, Saturn produces auroras at its poles, brilliant light shows triggered when charged particles from the Sun stream down into the upper atmosphere.
Unlike Earth's auroras, which glow from oxygen and nitrogen, Saturn's auroras are powered by hydrogen, producing a different spectral signature visible only in ultraviolet light.
Everything we have discussed so far, the storms, the lightning, the auroras, none of it prepared scientists for the true wonder of Saturn, its extraordinary ring system. Saturn's ring system consists of 10 main continuous rings, stretching from 66,000 all the way to 140,000 kilometers above the planet's center. The rings are made almost entirely of water ice mixed with small amounts of dust and rock, ranging in size from microscopic particles to chunks as large as a small building.
Despite stretching hundreds of thousands of kilometers outward, Saturn's main rings are incredibly thin, in places as narrow as just 10 meters from top to bottom.
Scientists can determine ring particle composition by studying how different wavelengths of light reflect off them, revealing more pure ice toward the outer rings and dirtier material closer in. The rings are not static. They ripple, oscillate, and shift constantly, sometimes moving as much as 200 kilometers from their baseline position within a single day. Coming up, the moon that physically sculpts Saturn's rings like a sculptor shaping clay, and it is only 102 kilometers across.
Saturn has a moon called Prometheus, just 102 kilometers across, whose gravity is strong enough to pull streamers of material out of the F-ring with every orbit.
These interactions between Prometheus and the F-ring leave a visible ripple trail through the ring material, a delicate pattern created by gravitational force on ice and dust.
Some of Saturn's outer rings are nearly invisible from the front, but when backlit by the sun, they reveal themselves as enormous blue and white halos.
I want to know what you think. If you could visit one place in the solar system, would you choose Saturn's rings or one of its mysterious moons? Tell me below. The outermost ring of Saturn, the Phoebe Ring, is so enormous that if it were visible from Earth, it would appear twice the size of a full moon in the night sky. Saturn does not just have rings, it has at least 82 confirmed moons, more natural satellites than any other planet in our solar system. Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is remarkable. It is bigger than the planet Mercury, and it is the only moon in the entire solar system with a thick atmosphere of its own. Titan's atmosphere contains nitrogen and methane, and on its surface there are lakes and rivers of liquid methane, making it one of the most Earth-like worlds we have ever discovered. Then there is Mimas, a small moon dominated by a single enormous impact crater. Here is what we have not covered yet, how Saturn actually moves through space, and the strange truth about time on this planet will leave you questioning what a day even means.
Most of Saturn's 82 moons are tiny, just a few kilometers across, chunks of ice and rock captured long ago by the planet's enormous gravitational influence. Some of Saturn's smaller moons are actually responsible for generating their own ring material, being struck by micrometeoroids and ejecting debris that spreads into thin ring bands. Several moons act as gravitational shepherds, their gravity preventing ring material from spreading outward or inward. The gravitational relationship between Saturn, its rings, and its moons is one of the most complex and elegant orbital systems in the entire solar system.
Ring particles are not simply floating in place. They're constantly colliding, clumping, breaking apart, and reforming in a continuous slow-motion dance held in place by gravity. During Saturn's equinoxes, the rings become nearly edge-on as viewed from the sun, causing them to cast dramatic shadow bands across the planet's upper cloud layers.
When viewed in ultraviolet light, the rings reveal their hidden composition, with purer ice glowing brightly in the outer sections.
The main ring groups each have their own character. The innermost D ring, barely visible, the massive B ring, the brightest and widest. Beyond the main rings, the G and E rings glow only when backlit by the sun, becoming visible as ghostly halos of ice and dust at the outer edges of the ring system.
Stay with us because we are about to cover how long a day actually lasts on Saturn, and the answer is different depending on exactly where you are standing on the planet.
Saturn orbits the sun at 9 to 10 times the distance that Earth does, which means one Saturn year takes the equivalent of 30 full Earth years to complete.
A day on Saturn lasts only around 10 hours, making it one of the fastest rotating planets in the solar system, despite being the second largest world we know of.
Because Saturn has no solid surface, its equator rotates at a different speed than its poles, meaning the length of a day literally changes depending on where you measure it. Scientists sent the Cassini spacecraft to Saturn, and it orbited the planet for 13 years, revealing more about this world than all previous observations combined. What the Cassini mission gave us was not just data. It gave us one of the most complete portraits of another planetary system that science has ever produced. Everything we know about Saturn's rings, its moons, its hexagonal storm, and its atmosphere came directly from instruments and cameras sent across the solar system to study it.
One of the most beautiful and unexplained features of Saturn is the gradual color shift from gold at its equator to a soft pale blue toward its poles.
Few sights in the entire solar system are as breathtaking as Saturn, with the shadows of its rings falling across the planet's surface in bands of deep indigo and warm gold.
Before we close, we have to talk about what Saturn means for the future, because the next generation of spacecraft headed to this planet may answer questions that have haunted scientists for decades. Future missions are already being planned to return to Saturn, with proposals to send a spacecraft specifically to orbit Titan and study its methane oceans and complex chemistry.
The proposed Dragonfly mission would send a rotorcraft to fly through Titan's thick atmosphere, landing at different sites to search for chemical signatures of pre-biological life. What future missions may discover is whether the organic chemistry happening in Saturn's moons and atmosphere represents conditions similar to those that once existed on the early Earth. Saturn reminds us that our solar system is far stranger and far more beautiful than we could ever have imagined before spacecraft finally went there to see it for themselves. When you look at Saturn through a telescope and see those rings for the first time, you experience something that has stopped astronomers in their tracks for over 400 years. Imagine standing on the surface of one of Saturn's icy moons, looking up to see the planet and its rings filling the entire sky above you. In the 30 Earth years it takes Saturn to complete one orbit, entire human generations have been born, lived full lives, and passed. Saturn's rings appear to change their tilt as we observe them from Earth over a 15-year cycle, sometimes nearly edge-on and nearly invisible. Saturn and its 82 moons represent an entire planetary ecosystem, a miniature solar system within our own. Saturn is proof that the solar system still holds mysteries powerful enough to humble the greatest scientific minds on Earth. Subscribe to Noxar Flux so you never miss a story. The greatest Saturn discoveries are still coming, and we will cover every single one.